Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Jonathan, you're the chairman of Phillips. We are in the headquarters of Phillips auction house here in Kowloon. Phillips conducts online and live auctions, right?
Yes.
And focuses on contemporary art, design, and luxury items. So, Jonathan, can you tell me two lies and one truth about yourself?
Two lies and one
Yes.
truth. I've always wanted to be an auctioneer.
Okay.
Do I have to tell you if that's a lie or the truth?
Tell me the three, and I
Okay.
can guess which one is true. Now I'm cutting you off
I,
guard.
I, I really want a holiday and
Mm,
I wish I'd studied
engineering.
engineering. Okay, yeah.
No doubt that the truth is that you really need a holiday.
Yeah. Is it that obvious? Okay.
You don't look tired, if that was your
Okay.
question.
Must be my makeup then. Yeah.
Oh, you're wearing makeup?
No,
No.
I'm not.
Ah, that's a lie.
Well, yeah, it's a joke
That's a good
more
one.
than a lie. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, a truth I read about you is that you represented Great Britain in rowing and skiing, right?
Indeed, if you believe everything you read in the newspapers or magazines, then yes, that is the
So
truth.
it's true.
It is true, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you like the thrill of competition?
I do. Yeah, I have this kind of inherent competitive streak in me, which I recently discovered. I It has not diminished in any way, shape, or form. When I was in Switzerland last month, and I found myself in a ski race that my brother was in, and without realizing it, the competitive streak in me came out, and I decided to attack the course a lot harder than I was planning to, and ended up damaging my wrist and having to kind of wear a cast for two weeks.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes I just can't help myself. It just happens.
And is it something that is also that you also feel in your work, like during an auction?
I think my competitive streak is um, it drives me. Whether it's when I was rowing, for example, or even skiing, my coaches would teach me to envisage the race in my head before the race and just keep pushing all the way to the end. So I would envisage each
Mm,
rowing stroke, each kind of curve of the course in the ski race, and that's kind of the mentality that I apply to work. Whether it's to pushing to our consignment deadlines, I just give 100% right up to the very last hour of the last day, and try to kind of fill our auctions with as much property as possible. Or when it comes to auctioneering, I'm trying to squeeze out every single last bid from any
mm,
possible source, whether it's from someone in the room or on the telephone banks or online. It's like I'm just
mm,
holding on to the very last second to try and get the maximum amount for the seller.
that must be, yeah, very exciting moments. And what about from what I observed, the buyers? Do you have like if maybe stereotypes of buyers, like maybe the people who are looking to invest, the people who are really art enthusiasts, for example? Have you seen like different kinds of buyers?
I mean, you've summed it up perfectly.
Okay.
There are your more speculative, investment-minded buyers, and
Yeah.
then you have your buyers who are buying purely for the appreciation of the art. I don't like to stereotype people in
No,
any
but
way,
yeah.
but I think one can safely say that a lot of those speculative type of buyers really fueled the market up until 1.5 years ago. In the last year and a half, a lot of that kind of investment minded approach when it comes to buying and selling in the art world has just dissipated. It's almost disappeared completely. So what we're actually left with is people who are buying for the love of the art,
Oh,
which
wow.
is arguably not a bad place to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And what about the share of luxury items? By luxury items, I guess watches.
Well, at Phillips, we sell watches and jewelry.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's the share between art pieces and luxury items?
in terms of like our transactional volume or
Yeah.
value. So our core focus is modern and contemporary art. I don't have an exact breakdown at the moment, but
Mm,
I'd say that at least half of what we sell is modern and contemporary art. I'd say maybe one third
Okay.
is watches, and then the remaining 20% is broken down into jewelry, but also our other categories too, which include photographs and editions and design.
And how has this evolved over time? Like for example, I'm talking about watches because it's really something, a market that is growing a lot. So do you see that as well at Philips?
I
Do
mean,
you, do you, do you see that, maybe the consequences of what's happening in this market?
when it comes to watches, we are regarded as one of, if not the global market leader in the category when it comes to the secondary market. And we have seen a huge success with our
Okay.
auctions. So there's been huge growth there. But at the same time, similarly as has happened with art and just auction generally, values have come down. But then you have unique and special items with exceptional provenance, which still continue to fetch incredibly impressive results in watches.
To come back to the buyers, I read also that you attract more and more younger buyers. Is it, I guess it's maybe your strategy, or is it related to the market or to the area, the region here?
No doubt your average buyer, again, we're kind of stereotyping here, but your average buyer in Asia is of a younger generation when compared to perhaps your buyers in the West. We have a lot of activity with buyers in their 30s and 40s here. Maybe as much as half of our transactional activity happens in that age group, whereas perhaps the equivalent in the West would be, people in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So it's perhaps like 10 years younger on average.
Mm.
But one of the things we see here is that whereas perhaps in the West people start to build collections and put them together slowly over the course of a decade, starting perhaps with slightly lower value items, and then as they gain more confidence, start to buy at a higher level. In Asia, it's not surprising for us to have people come in at the very top end with some of their very first purchases. So buying at 10 million Hong Kong dollars
Wow.
and above, with
Wow.
their
Okay.
initial purchases at auction. Yeah,
Okay. You worked before at Sotheby's and you started your career at Christie's, right?
indeed, I did.
And in between, before Phillips, you were a business owner as
Yes,
well.
yes, yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about that later. What's the biggest deal you've made running your business?
Well, define my business. I mean, at Phillips, the largest deal that I've worked on was the sale of Peter Doig's Rosedale, which we sold at auction for 28.8 million US dollars. It fetched a world record for any living British artist at the time.
Mhm.
But I think specifically your question was more about
But
when I was
I'm happy
independently.
to
Yeah.
have that information as well.
Okay. Well, while independent, when I was operating my own art advisory business between the years of 2009 and 2013, I was operating as a private art dealer and
Mm,
consultant. So the nature of the deals kind of have to remain private. And I wouldn't want to name the artist, but I can name the amount.
mhm.
So the amount was close to 15 million US dollars, and it was for an artwork by a very important
Okay.
US artist. Yeah.
And how did you feel? Did you
Uh,
have this competitive mindset kicking in again?
well, so I'm someone that always likes to work towards a goal,
Hmm.
and when I was independent, I had to constantly redefine what those goals were, because I would generally meet those goals and then kind of get there and then think, okay, I've done this. Now, what's next?
Mm,
And there was definitely a sense of huge satisfaction, relief,
yeah.
but there was also that kind of feeling of, I've done that now. Now what?
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay. And then, so you were running your business from 2009 to 2013,
13.
right?
Yeah.
Then after that, you came back to Sotheby's,
I
right?
went back to Sotheby's in London. Yeah,
Yeah.
working
But
for
as
our
a director, you had,
yeah, I was working
okay.
for our Asian office
Mm.
or business, but based in London.
But do you think for the years you spent running your own business and I guess building connections with people. Do you think this helped you boost your career when you were back in corporate, let's say?
Very much so, yes. Yeah.
Mm. Was it a conscious choice, or was it just that, after when you started your business, it was just you were feeling like, okay, I need maybe a new challenge, something new, and then you went back to corporate, and actually, in hindsight, that was strategic, but was it conscious at the time?
Um, it was not a conscious decision as such
Mm,
as in the way that you're perhaps asking. It more happened organically and just happened to suit my situation
yeah.
personally at the time. But no doubt, my time working independently has been hugely beneficial in informing how I work, how I have worked subsequently. Working independently, I was able to put my ideas into practice
Mm,
immediately. There was no kind of layers of approval or bureaucracy that was involved. It was like I would decide that I was going to Sao Paulo the next day, and I would
yeah.
book a ticket and I would go. There was no kind of applying for approval
Mm,
or any of that bureaucracy. It was I just did it. And whereas on the flip side, despite there being no layers of approval and no kind of very little or
mm,
just zero bureaucracy, um, I didn't have the benefit of all the support departments that exist in a larger organization. I was there, of course, kind of closing deals as an art dealer and art advisor, but I also had to do my own taxes and book my
yeah.
own flights and do my
Yeah.
own expenses and all of that, which so I spent perhaps 90% of my time doing things that perhaps I would rather not have been doing.
Mm,
Being independent meant that I could choose how and when to work, and if I wanted to take a week off again, I could decide that day to just take the next week off.
yeah. But also you kind of never take holidays when you're
That's very
a
true. Yeah,
business owner,
you're
even
never
if you
you're never you
can.
never switch off, even if you're
No.
on holiday.
Yeah, you
In
never
fact,
really, yeah.
the first time when I was independent, when I closed my first deal, I was on holiday in Italy. But it was a real eye opener to me because, as you say, you can never switch off. But the way I closed that deal was through, I think, instead of WhatsApp back then, we were
Mm,
using BlackBerry Messenger. And so I was on the beach and I was reading a book. My feet were in the water, and I get a ping on my BlackBerry, confirming
mm,
the deal. And in that one deal, I made personally as much as that I used to make in my earlier job in 6 months. So and that was from literally sending a few messages
text,
on
yeah.
BlackBerry Messenger, and I thought that was a real kind of eye opener. It was like, yes, okay, I have to work when I'm on holiday, and I can never switch off. But the fact that I can close a deal of that magnitude and do it whilst on the beach was a
Mm,
real
mm,
eye opener for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Much more flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I have a few quick questions for you. I don't want to cut you off guard again. So it's super easy
As you could
questions.
probably tell earlier, I'm not very good at these rapid fire questions. So,
No,
um,
honestly, it's easy. It's
yeah.
easy.
Okay.
Which was the first art piece you bought?
Okay.
Easy, right?
It's quite easy. I bought an artwork while I was at school, probably aged 15, from a boy in the year above me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I paid £5 for it. And he was an art student, and I just quite liked his work, and I thought I thought there was something to him, and
Okay. I was not expecting that,
yeah,
but
unfortunately, he never really kind of made it
mm,
as a famous artist, from to my knowledge, but I still have that artwork at home
yeah,
today.
you
Yeah,
still, okay, you
yeah.
still do. Cool. Do you have a motto that drives your life?
I have several mottos.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them come from my father.
Yeah.
The one that probably springs to mind now, above all others, is I can and I will. I I I believe in manifestation, and kind of if you want something enough and you believe that you can make it happen, largely most of the time in my experience, you can make it happen. So the belief needs to be in yourself first in order to have other people believe in you. That's something I have applied since my father kind of drilled it into me
Mm.
as a teenager, I suppose, when we were in Switzerland climbing up mountains in the summer holidays. I would be at the bottom of the mountain looking all the way up thinking, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get to the top of this mountain? And he was like, every step of the way with his walking stick, I can and I will. I can and I
Wow.
will. And it just drilled it into my brain. And it's something which I repeat to myself on a daily basis now. Whenever
Okay.
I encounter a problem or a challenge, I tell myself that it's not insurmountable, and I do whatever I can to just
Mm,
conquer that
mm,
challenge. Yeah.
mm. What's your favorite place in the world?
Um,
Many people say my bed.
I was about to say that, but um,
Is there a place? Maybe there's no favorite
there's a
place.
couple of places to me which are, just kind of come to mind, and they're both holiday
Hmm.
destinations, places where I used to go as a kid. I've alluded to both of them already. One of them is in Italy.
Yeah.
The beaches in Sardinia are just, where the
Mm,
water is just,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
as clear as can be, and I just feel completely relaxed when I'm there.
Yeah.
And the other is in Switzerland up the mountains, whether it's in the winter or the summer. I love the solitude of being
Yeah.
in the mountains. Yeah.
Mm, I agree with Italy.
Oh,
Really
okay.
agree. Yeah. And last quick question. What was the last expensive thing you bought?
That's a good question. How does one define expensive?
Up to
I
you.
suppose it's relative. Um,
Compared to everyday spending.
okay. I've kind of been holding back from spending
Yeah?
recently. Yeah.
You want to possess less?
I do, but I kind of also have um, this tendency to accumulate and to never. My
Mm.
wife calls it hoarding, but I call it collecting. There's a difference. But I think the thing that springs to mind now is an artwork that I bought by a British artist that I think has got huge talent and massive potential.
What's his name?
I knew you were going to ask me that
Of
because,
course.
but I don't want to reveal it because there's a bit of a conflict here,
Okay. Oh, okay.
you know.
Okay.
But that's something that I love to do generally is spot artists that who are in their earlier years
Mm,
or earlier stages of their career,
mm,
kind of find work which I think has potential to do well in the secondary market because my eye has been trained over the last more than 20 years to select artists for auction that have potential to do well at auction. So I kind of use that knowledge and that eye, as we call
mm.
it, in spotting young
Yeah.
talent. And it's really fun because I get it right most of the time.
Mm.
And I have a good feeling about this British artist. So yeah, I bought quite a large canvas for I think it was £20,000, but
Mm.
I truly believe he has the potential to be a £200,000
Mm.
artist in a few years. Yeah.
Okay. After the recording, you'll tell me the name I
I
want to
can let
know.
you know after. Yeah.
End of the quick question.
Okay.
Fine.
Oh,
Was
great. Okay,
easy.
I passed, did I?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Are we done then?
No.
No, it's still more to go. Okay.
You tired of this or
No,
what?
no, no. I'm enjoying this. Let's continue.
Okay. About Phillips. You joined in 2016,
Yeah.
and when you joined, you told me that when you joined, the team was very small. You didn't have all these at headquarters, and now you have close to 100 people in your team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe at the time you must have told yourself, I can, so I will. How did you grow Phillips?
Well, if you had asked me 10 years ago whether, we'd be sitting here today in the largest premises of any auction house in Hong Kong, and that auction house would be Phillips,
Mm.
then I would have said, No way, not in a million years."
It was kind of the outsider
Yeah,
compared
yeah,
to the two others.
yeah. I again, I kind of love to set myself goals and try to push myself to achieve what many people will think is
Mm.
impossible or unimaginable. And quite often that involves bucking the trend and doing something completely different. And I think that's where a lot of our success lay in our early years. We, we thought creatively, looked at the market, tried to assess what the market wanted, but also what the market wasn't being provided.
Mm.
Um, and we tried to kind of address that need. Um, so back in 2016, with our inaugural auction here, we didn't want to just be another auction house
Yeah.
launching in Hong Kong. We wanted to, start off with a bang, do something impressive that made people look at us and think, oh, that's different, but interesting. And
And what's that difference?
also the difference there was that we wanted our first sale to kind of be representative of what we do best at Phillips. So in that initial auction of art and design, we had modern contemporary art, we had editions, we had photographs and design furniture, which are all independent selling categories at Phillips, alongside alongside watches too.
Mm.
And later we started offering jewelry alongside our those sales. And what was different about that art and design sale was that never before had any auction house done that on such a large scale, where we're including some of the really significant items by some of the most famous artists in the world at a really high level in terms of value. Yes, people had offered Western art before in sales, in auctions here
Mm.
previously, but never kind of at that higher level. We kept the quantity low, but the value and quality high. We had tremendous success there, and we had several world record results in that auction. Essentially, we've kind of just grew from there.
Mm.
Always trying to look at the market to see, where the trends lie,
Yeah.
but also kind of addressing it in a way that perhaps stands out from our competition.
So what are the trends? What are the trends now and the future trends? Or you don't want to say it because you don't want the competition to listen to that?
No, I think the competition have as much of an idea as I do right now. It's I don't necessarily view the other auction houses as
Yeah.
competition, or I kind of don't. I kind of think about things in a different way, perhaps as other people do. I think that we're all part of the same ecosystem, and we all have to thrive. And I don't see us as doing the same thing as the other houses. We all kind of have our areas of the markets that we're strongest at.
So,
We're in this time of uncertainty right now, and it's difficult to kind of pinpoint where the current trends are. It used to be much easier to spot, whether it was work by female artists or work by artists
mm,
from the Chinese diaspora, or works by artists of African descent, for example. It was just trends would kind of come in and out of fashion almost on a seasonal basis. Some artists again would kind of come into favor and then fall out of favor after a couple of seasons or a couple of years. I think a big shift in the market happening right now, as a lot of these speculative buyers have left and true art lovers are kind of dominating the taste making
mm,
now. I think because of the uncertainty, there is more of a trend to perhaps more blue chip names, the safer bets. So the more famous names of the 20th century. Those are the names which I think a lot of our collectors are gravitating towards right now.
mm.
But I mean, in terms of a prediction, I would not be surprised if, where here in Asia, people have been looking at artists from the West largely in the last 10 years. I think
Mm.
there's a huge amount of talent being produced here locally by Asian artists. And I think that we'll see more Asian artists appearing in our auctions and in auctions around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like most about your job today?
Um, no, I have a love-hate relationship
Okay.
with my job. There are some days where I think this is the best job in the world. I wouldn't trade it in for anything, and then there are days where it's definitely not like that.
Which is, I mean,
I guess
we're
that's
humans, right?
yeah.
So,
I guess that's normal in any
yeah,
job.
yeah. But what's
I
the
mean,
aspect that you like most?
to pinpoint one thing is going to be quite difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds cheesy, but I love winning.
Mm-hmm.
I love closing a deal. I
Yeah.
love kind of making the impossible happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen kind of at any stage of a consignment or sale. It can be closing the deal, like closing the consignment. So winning the artwork
Yeah.
consignment for sale at auction, because there's a huge amount of work that goes into the build up of that. And when you get the go ahead from the seller, that's, I get a huge sense of satisfaction, relief, but that's only half the story. You've then got to sell it.
Mm.
Winning the consignment quite often gives me huge sense of
Okay.
satisfaction, but then the kind of stage two kicks in and you have to sell it. And so, consigning some of the top lots for auction that I have over my career, definitely kind of some of the highlights, high moments, high points. But I think nothing really compares to then selling it at auction for an impressive
Mm.
price. And sometimes there have been some as an auctioneer, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen on the day. We do our best to try and predict what's going to happen with
Mm.
work done prior to the day, even kind of prior to the hour of the auction. We're working up the very last minute trying to pre-sell things. But even when the auction starts, quite often, I mean, sometimes we're even trying to sell stuff later in the auction when, while the auction is on. But as an auctioneer, when I'm up there and I'm trying to, read the room and
Mm.
try to extract bids out of people in the room when they perhaps weren't necessarily going to bid, and then it happens, then the work sells for a good price. That's a pretty good moment for me. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, you like to reach goals and challenges. So what's your challenge now? What's your next goal, your next objective?
Again, like this is something which I don't perhaps want to share with our competitors.
So
um,
say yeah, up to
but
you.
but no, the goal really is to remain.
Also your goal, like personally.
Yeah. Well, we've grown so rapidly here in Asia, that my role is constantly evolving
Mm.
too. Whereas when we were a lot smaller, an organization, I was kind of involved in every aspect of what we did,
Yeah.
including the press and marketing and the events and the hanging of the artworks and everything that we did. As we've grown, we've been lucky enough to be able to grow our support departments,
Mm.
and so I was focused more on modern contemporary art. Now I'm focusing really on developing our business regionally. So
Mm.
I'm spending a lot of time out in across the region in different countries, meeting with our clients there and developing our relationships with top collectors or people who have potential to be important collectors.
Mm.
So yeah, in terms of a goal, I want to continue along that vein of growing our business and securing top consignments for sale and but right now it's a challenging environment. So I'd say the primary goal right now is keeping our head above water and preparing for the market when it eventually picks up again, hopefully
Mm.
sooner rather
Hopefully.
than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there anything in your career or in your life that you regret and you think you would have done differently?
I always said that if I could do it all again, I would like to retrain as an architect.
Yeah?
Yeah. I suppose it's never too late,
Yeah.
but
I was about to say that.
but considering it takes 7 years to train and qualify as an architect,
Mm.
perhaps that would mean that I'd be in my later 50s as a kind of graduate. So perhaps perhaps it is too late now.
Mm,
But yeah, that's something that I had always kind of thought that perhaps I could have done,
okay.
should have done.
Maybe you'll do it somehow, not not the way you picture it,
Yeah.
but let's see.
I mean, I kind of I love to curate shows and make beautiful spaces. Um, I can't claim to have been personally involved in curating you know this show that we find ourselves sitting in today. But this is exactly the type of thing that I love to do: create beautiful interiors and
Mm,
spaces, and help our clients see the art in a with
mm,
new eyes, in a way which they can't do themselves. So I really love that.
okay.
Um, and um, and so yes, I think you're right. I am kind of doing it in my own way. It's extremely satisfying to me when a client comes in and they see how we've hung a room and they think, I want this room. I want
Yeah.
everything here. I want the painting, the sculpture, the photograph, the addition
Mm,
and the furniture. I love it and I want to
mm,
replicate it in my own home. So yeah, architecture in a interior sense is something
okay. Yeah.
I've been playing with.
So I imagine your home is well decorated and stylish.
It depends who you ask. If you ask me, yeah, I think there's a constant challenge in our household because my wife is more of the minimalist and I'm more of a
Okay.
collector. So
Okay.
there's that kind of dynamic at play. Yeah, but yeah,
Okay.
it's if you ask me, it's quite nicely
Mm.
curated. Yeah.
I have one last question for you, Jonathan. What do you think are the two or three elements to be a successful leader?
Um, I mean, I can talk about this in a
Mm?
personal sense. I mean, I think it's important to know where your strengths lie and focus on those and accept that other people are better at other things than you are. And be willing to listen to those people and to
Mm.
take their opinions and expertise on board in your decision making. I think it's important to be humble in that regard. Yeah, so be humble and be willing to adapt to change and
Mm. Especially now.
yeah, because you can't control what's happening out there, but you can control how you react to it.
Mm.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Good.
yeah, you answer it the way you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess balancing that with your motto would
Yeah.
definitely make a good
Yeah, I
leader.
can and I will.
Is
Believe
this
in
also
yourself.
something you tell your kids?
Yeah,
Yeah?
they know my personal mantras or mottos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another one which I'm happy to share is try and you might, don't and you won't. And this is something again which my dad
Mm.
taught me.
Try and you might, don't and you
Yeah.
won't.
It's you gotta try. You never know.
Yeah.
If you don't try, it definitely won't happen. But if
Yeah.
you do try and you are successful,
Yeah.
then you'll have no
Yeah.
regrets. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been talking to a lot of business owners. Actually, I can see the same patterns in the mindset,
Mm.
and I can definitely feel with you that you have this mindset, even though you're no longer a proper business owner. But I can really feel this, yeah,
Yeah.
this mindset. It's
Mm.
yeah, interesting.
I think it's important to be able to take risks
Mm, yeah.
because if you don't, then you can never implement change.
Mm,
And if you don't constantly change and evolve and adapt, you will become extinct.
mm.
So it's key to success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a quote that says something about change, like that being crazy is when you expect a different result doing the same thing, something like that. Yeah. We'll end on this. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Carmen. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode that this is a big day because it's the 50th episode of Asian Business Owners. So you're my 50th guest.
Oh wow, what an honor.
Yes, I'm happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so
It's
much.
been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.